Dr. Kurien, we would like to know about the projects that are at present going on and in the future they are going to be taken up by NDTP.
At the moment, I think what we are discussing is probably the extension of the fruits and vegetable project to some other cities than Delhi. It's now operating in Delhi. The Chief Minister of Gujarat suggested that it should be done, something like that should be built here. Here means Ahmedabad or Baroda or somewhere in between. Maharashtra wants one somewhere near Bombay, for Bombay city. Bangalore wants it. So we may evolve a project for fruits and vegetables, establishing a grid linking our principal cities, Bombay, Delhi, Calcutta, Madras, even as we established in milk, so that the coconuts of Kerala can be marketed in Delhi and the ginger from Mizoram can be marketed in Ahmedabad and so on. And onions from Nasik can go somewhere and so on, and potatoes from Kaira district can be marketed elsewhere. So a grid should be established with a number of projects like the one in Delhi. So there is some plan going on to see if this can be done. There is a great deal of interest because horticulture is a labor intensive occupation. And most state governments would like to have a horticulture project because it gives employment. Apart from making fruits, vegetables, etc. available at a reasonable cost. So that is a project that will be evolved. What else shall we evolve? We will diversify the production of many of our dairies to include ice cream, to include cheese, to include many other products. Maybe we will also include Indian products like rasagullas and sandesh and mawa and so on. So there are diversification. This is also a possibility. Ice cream is now reserved for the small scale industry, but if government will agree that the reservation will not apply to cooperatives, so that a cooperative can diversify into ice cream, which is a profitable value added product for milk, which will give them some profit. Now these will also be done. Basically the problem of dairy board would be to think seriously what else can we do. Amongst our fancy ideas, we have an idea of trying to see if Anand can be made into a very beautiful town. We will do something about the road. Amul Dairy Road has been repaired because it's not being maintained properly. I have repaired it recently. We are putting sodium lamps and shifting mercury lamps to other areas. We will plant trees that will give flowers. I feel Anand can be developed into one of the most beautiful towns of Gujarat. And I think if the dairy board can do something to do it, we'll do so. Then we are looking at the universities towns. What is Baroda University? It's a very ancient university. It has a glorious past. It looks somewhat not in very good health now. So I am in correspondence and I will soon be meeting and discussing with the Vice Chancellor of Baroda University whether we can do anything to strengthen the position of the university, whether we can finance any research, whether we can pretty up that beautiful building which houses the Baroda University. So there are some discussion we can do on that. There has been a suggestion that we should still further dramatically increase milk production. Our minister in Delhi has been talking to me, why can't we have 1 lakh insemination centers, artificial insemination centers set up, so that crossbreeding can be given a great fillip, and whether we would not set up this at our cost nationally. There are discussions that there are some areas, northeast of India, etc., where milk production is not good. What can we do to help in increasing milk production in the northeastern states where our performance, we have not performed at all?
Yes.
Then, of course, government have agreed that they will redo the cooperative law to give autonomy to the cooperatives and reduce political interference. We will further press on government to get these things done. So there are a whole series of things that we may wish to do in dairy and in fruits and vegetables. In vegetable oil, I think much more needs to be done. We have only tried it out in some places, some with success, some with not so much success. We have set up India's largest oil mill in North Gujarat, of it produces some 500 tons per day. It is the largest oil mill. Now we are running it because you see, I believe the production of mustard oil is increasing rapidly in North Gujarat. It may even spread to Saurashtra. It certainly will spread to South Rajasthan. So we built a very large plant in anticipation of production increasing, so that farmers' product must always have a market. Otherwise, the whole interest of farmer will go. So that is being done. The unfortunate thing of mustard oil is it is produced here in this part of the country
And used somewhere else.
and used in the eastern part of India. So the question of transporting the oil, whether we can do so by ship, whether it will be cheaper to take it by ship from Kandla to Calcutta than by 10-ton trucks clear across the country. So all these are also being looked at.
Dr. Kurien, as you said that you are diversifying into different fields, I would like to ask you a question related to mustard oil seeds. I mean, why is it that oil seeds, as you said, NDDB is doing a lot in this field and it has reasons of not reaching its targets? What is the reason behind it?
The reason why we went in for it is because the government of India asked us to handle vegetable oil. The import of vegetable oil had reached a figure of 1.8 million tons 2-3 years ago. And the finance minister of India invited me for a discussion and said, this is too much foreign exchange going out. Why can't we get the oil produced here? You have made the country self-sufficient in milk. Can you do so in vegetable oil? It is as a result of this discussion that we went in for vegetable oil. And the imports had come down to 2 years or 1 year ago to hardly 40,000 tons from 1.8 million tons. India was on the verge of self-sufficiency. When the government adopted policies of liberalization, globalization and so on, as a result of which free imports were permitted, it was declared under open general license, import duty was removed, and therefore all that we have done to achieve self-sufficiency got undone. So now we are explaining all this to government, and now the import bills have again begun to go up in the last 2 years. So these have been discussed with the government of India at the highest levels, and government has asked us now maybe what the change in policy was once again will have to be done. So we will see what the new government's policy would be. You see, liberalization, globalization, etc. may be all right in the field of industry. But in the field of agriculture, I believe our farmers must be protected and must be helped to produce more. Our farmers are 3/4 of the India's population, 74%. Now their employment, their well-being depends upon agriculture. And if they cannot produce agricultural products and market it at a good price, they have no future. And that no government can look at it in this way, that we can agree to no future. So it is that the policy of allowing free imports, no duty, etc., will have to be revised. So I have discussed this with the Prime Minister, and he has seen my point. And I think soon there will be revision of these policies.
Dr. Kurien, in dairy development, women's contribution has been there to a large extent, which we had talked about last time. I would like to know from you, what is your opinion about gender equation?
You have seen in the dairy board that the successor to the chairman of the dairy board is a woman. So as far as the dairy board is concerned, it accepts the position that dairying is largely an occupation of women. It is the women who tend the buffaloes, it's the women who milk the cows, it's the women who market the milk. And it would be appropriate if the income of this business goes to the woman. Because it is well known and we accept the position, if the income of woman is increased, the income of the family, she uses it for the well-being of the family. Whereas a man's income is increased, he probably goes and has a drink or smokes cigarettes or something. So it is more important for the benefit of the families to increase the income of the woman. So dairying is well adapted to this, and I agree with you that we should certainly encourage women to play more important role in the administration of the village cooperatives, in participating in the village cooperatives, milk cooperatives. And I can only, as dairy board, set an example by seeing that we have a woman succeed me And I can assure you, I never employed any women before. The first woman I employed was Miss Patel, but then she opened the gates for women to be employed. Now there are a number of women working in the dairy board. We do find that a cooperative run by women are usually better run cooperative than cooperatives run by men. The reason seems to be that women have no ambition to use the position in a cooperative to become an MLA or an MP. They are quite happy to remain in the village. Whereas a man is always using these to develop further ambitions. Women's ambitions are limited to her family, her house, her village. So we find such cooperatives as are commanded by women are better run, better managed, more honest than that of men. So it is to the good if women come. We have many women's cooperatives, maybe about 1,000 or 2,000 of them in India, entirely women and managed by women.
Dr. Kurien, when we talk about cooperatives, we think in the terms of democracy from the grassroots level. And in that context, I would like to ask you whether cooperatives would go in the long run to give us better citizens, better nationals.
Certainly. Democracy, if it only means that you elect an MLA or an MP once in 4 or 5 years, that's not democracy. Democracy is something that you must be practicing every day. So democracy at Delhi and in Gandhinagar must be underpinned by democratic structures right down to the village level, where every day the Milk Cooperative, which is a democratic structure, when a crook gets hold of the cooperative, you will soon find that the farmer's income from milk reduces. And then they will understand that they elected the wrong man. Next time they will remove him. So it's a process of educating people by actual practice the benefits of democracy. You see, whatever be the ills of democracy, the solution is not to do away with democracy. The solution is to have more democracy. There is no other system that is better. Therefore, we must make whatever is wrong with democracy, we must remove it. And you can only remove it by having more democracy. And I am all for a plurality of democratic structures to be created to underpin democracy in Delhi and in Gandhinagar. And these democratic structures are performing well. Our people are good people. And it is only appropriate that we begin to rely more and more on people's organizations rather than on bureaucratic organizations. It is time we cut down the power of the bureaucracy and created more people's organizations for doing many things, whether it is education, whether it is power supply, whether it is water supply, whether it is irrigation, whether it is milk supply. Yes, let the people manage. Then democracy will become strong.
Powers which are decentralized, you mean to say it should be controlled by the people?
Yes, when you decentralize, what you mean is you are removing it from the bureaucracy.
Right.
And giving it to the people to manage. Yes, you should do so. Because you must understand our people are good people. They belong to an ancient civilization. And they can be trusted to manage and take care of their own matters better than anyone else can.
Dr. Kurien, work has been a factor which has been very, I would say, you have always stuck to your work ardently throughout. I would like to know what you have done to achieve these targets.
Well, as you can see, I have remained in Anand now for 47 years. I think I've already mentioned to you that I am remaining here not because I couldn't get a job in Bombay or in Delhi or in Rome or in Washington. I remain here because I believe this is the best job for a man like me. And therefore I have remained here. And I have given myself the time required to create institutions, particularly if you want to create institutions of excellence, elan, of quality, high integrity and so on, then you have to give this institution building the time required. You can't come here and sit in my chair for 2 years and go away and say that you are building NDDP. You are not. It takes time to build NDDP. So I have, in my wisdom, decided to spend time here, build it up. And my number 2 or my colleagues have also been here for a number of years. So these are all indication of the commitment to serve in jobs in little towns like Anand, and not seek the glamour of jobs in Delhi or in Bombay and so on. We have also refused to work for private sector, multinationals, all of which would have probably paid us more. But we have preferred to work for the public sector, for government, because the job was to help small farmers. So these are the objectives for which we remain here. And we have no ambitions other than to do this job properly.
I would like to know what will be the effect of liberalization or multinationals in your viewpoint?
In my viewpoint, we will be able to take care of any multinational in the field of dairy. This is because Amul Dairy, for example, has 400,000 farmers supplying milk to it. The job of the manager of Amul Dairy is not just to run a very complex dairy operation, handling 1 million liters of milk a day, but also how to manage 400,000 farmers and to keep them happy. It's a much more difficult job than running just a dairy factory. So, in our structures, people are important, and farmers are the most important of all these people. So, you will find that when a multinational wants to do it, how do they propose to handle 400,000 farmers? How are you going to pay them twice a day, every day of the year, in cash? They will not do it. They will not be able to do it. Therefore, they will appoint contractors to collect from the village. And the contractor will exploit the farmers. And the system would come back to what it was 50 years ago, 40 years ago, when Paulson was here. And then you can see, then you will see what has happened. Then Paulson was removed. Because Sardar Patel said Paulson khadi muko. Because if the farmer is to get the best price, he should be removed. The farmer must own the dairy. So you will see that what we are doing is something that is logical. It is what this country needs, what our farmers want, and we have also demonstrated that we can produce products of quality, as high a quality as any multinational can. We have also shown to you that we can make it at reasonable cost.
True.
And distribute it. Now, if a cooperative can do all this, we have demonstrated that farmers' organizations are capable of great things. Now, it is also capable, believe you me, taking care of any multinational. I am not at all afraid of multinational. What I am afraid of is political interference in cooperatives, freedom of action not being given to cooperatives, the powers of the registrar being excessive. Now, if these are corrected, then we have a level playing ground to compete with multinationals. And what I would want government to do is to give me that level playing ground to cooperatives so that they will be easily able to take care of multinationals.
What is the response of the farmers from the other states?
They've all asked to replicate Anand. And this is how Operation Flood was evolved. This is how there are today 176 Anands, not just one. So it's a very large movement.
True.
And as a result, milk production of India has kept growing. And today, instead of 20 million tons 20 years ago, we are producing 60 million tons, 65 million tons. We more than tripled India's milk production. So the cooperatives and the farmers have shown what they can do, which is all to the good.
Specifically, I wanted to know what is the factor in mind that is kept, because you see, mostly it is human interaction where cooperatives work.
No, dairy board is government. When employing in the dairy board,
I see.
That is what I was talking about. This is government.
Yes.
But if you are talking about the employment in the cooperative, I have no role to play. That is done by the managing director of the Amul Dairy or Mehsana Dairy or Sabarkantha Dairy. They have to do it. And if it is for the state federation, it is a function of the managing director of the state federation. I may only be the approving authority. I do not take interest in...
When this dairy started, Amul Dairy, way back, some 50 years back, at that time, how many farmers had joined in?
It started with 200 farmers.
200?
And 2 villages.
Total 2 villages and 200 farmers?
Yes.
And right now?
And the 2 villages were Hadgod and Gopalpura, nearby villages. Right now in Gujarat, there are 9,000 village cooperatives. There are, in every district there is a district union. And there is the state federation. That's the structure in Gujarat state. There is no village in Gujarat which will not have a cooperative society, milk society.
Which are the states which come next to Gujarat? as far as cooperatives are concerned?
Maharashtra, then there is Karnataka. Kerala is doing well. I think now that we have a new government in Tamil Nadu, it will do well in Tamil Nadu. Madhya Pradesh, Chief Minister is very much enamored of our system. Rajasthan, the Chief Minister there has given us a blank check to create Anands there. And we have sent a team of 25 officers to manage all the dairies there. Whichever sick dairy was there in Maharashtra, we have taken over and within a month turned it around and made it profitable. So all sorts of things are happening.
Which are the foreign countries with which we collaborate on expertise about doing this?
We do not have foreign collaboration per se.
Or are
For
we
example,
helping any country?
Amul Dairy has no foreign equity participation, no foreign partner. It's entirely Kaira District Farmers Organization. But if they wanted know-how, they would have sent someone to England, to the Milk Marketing Board of England for some training. If they wanted to learn something about cheese making, they may have sent someone somewhere for discussions and for practical training. But generally speaking, we avoid having a partnership, a collaboration.
Sort of, do we go ahead in, suppose some country asks us as expertise, then have we lent that?
Yes, just recently we have, for example, signed an agreement, memorandum of understanding with Sri Lanka. The Sri Lankan High Commissioner had come to Anand and signed an agreement with Ms. Patel, our managing director, that we will develop dairying in Sri Lanka. Our officers would be going there shortly and we will be taking over the job of developing dairying in Sri Lanka and making that country self-sufficient. Only today I was told that the President of Sri Lanka would like to come here and I would be inviting her to come here. I have also been informed that the Minister of Agriculture of France is coming to Anand for some discussion with me. So as you can see, Anand is becoming somewhat important and many people come from African countries here to see what we are doing and whether we can help them. Everything we have, we now have laid it open for others. But we can't do everything for others in other countries. They must do it for themselves. We can only provide training, we can provide some knowledge. We may even provide one or two people if you wish.
Do you do that? Have you done that for any of the countries, as you said, Africa or?
We have done, there is, if you see a list from our annual report, you will find at least 40 countries are visiting us every year. And many discussions take place. The only point is we can't do the work for them.
True.
We can only show them what we have done.
You can show them the path.
The
going
path,
ahead.
what we think, what we have done, and it is for them to look at our path, see how far it should be modified or adapted to suit the conditions in their country. Now if they want some expertise, some one or two people for that, I will also spare them that, gladly.
Dr. Kurien, we were talking about these collaborations coming in, different multinationals coming into our country. And do you think it is going to affect the economy of the country in any way?
In my opinion, most of them will not succeed. And if they are coming in, they will go back. Because not only have they to do all this job, but they have to compete with Amul for the market also. And all the 176 Amuls. It's not an easy job. Already I am told that several efforts have failed. And many of them are winding up, private sector is winding up in many places. Multinational, everybody said they're all flying here, nothing. I don't see any very big effort.
But that must be only related to dairy products. How
Yes.
about the other multinationals pouring in?
I have no idea. I don't know why we should have foreigners to do a job which Indians can do. If Indians do not know how to make cryogenic rockets, by all means bring foreigners to collaborate with you. But to make butter, it is not necessary because Indians have shown they can do it by themselves. Why you want foreign collaboration? You should not call in foreigners where Indian managerial capabilities, Indian technical expertise, Indian farmers' strength can produce it. Why you want to bring foreigners here? Foreign collaboration is not necessarily a good thing. After all, we must remember the British came here to trade, to collaborate in trading. And then you know what they did. So these are all loss of independence is involved in this. And I do not entirely, I do not agree with the policies of that talk about liberalization, globalization, and so on. No country in the world has allowed agriculture to foreign hands. United States, for example, will not allow me to set up a butter factory in the United States. And there is no such thing as freedom in agriculture. No country has given it. And why should we give it?
You have sort of invited troubles in the sense you have foreseen what would happen since this was in a very infant stage, and you have crossed those obstacles and gone ahead.
No, it is all not done by just one man. To handle these problems, we had built a very powerful team of very competent managers, very competent technical expertise, very competent dedication. We have built all this into Amul. That is why Amul became what it is. It is not just Kurien working. It is a team that is built. And I know that however great one man may be, what one man can achieve is extremely limited. The best thing he can do is to create many more people and induct them into this task.
Yes.
Then it is much safer. The dairy board, for example, has 1,000 officers, nearly. They are all very competent, very committed people. So it is getting together and building teams of people that can deliver the goods that makes for the success of the project. Not to depend on...
Right in the beginning, how many people were there for this?
I remember in Amul Dairy when it was handling 200,000 people, I came here, I quickly realized I did not know many things. So I brought in Dalaya, who was a very fine dairy technologist, the best in India. And he brought in J.D. Contractor, Dr. Contractor, who brought in Dr. I.M. Patel, who brought in P.H. Bhatt, who brought in V.H. Shah, and so on. And so soon you found there were about 6-8 PhDs from foreign universities in Amul Dairy. And therefore it became a very powerful team. That's why they made butter, they made powder when everybody said it could not be made, they made it. You see, you will be surprised that Indians are a fairly intelligent race. There is no shortage of brains in an Indian. The problem of Indians is they probably do not learn how to work together. I think this is what was said to me by a Japanese gentleman. If there is one Indian and one Japanese, the Indian is better. If there is 2 Indians and 2 Japanese, maybe they are equal. But if there are 3 Indians and 3 Japanese, the Indians will quarrel amongst themselves. The Japanese will be united. So the problem with Indians is discipline, to accept leadership. Whereas the Japanese, their traditions naturally come to them to accept. You see, when Chinese people come here for meetings, only one man will speak, all the others are taking notes. On the Indian side, everybody will want to speak. They are a very disciplined race. Now, whether this sort of, is it discipline or is it putting everybody in a tight jacket that they cannot express themselves freely? Whichever it is, when I went to China, what a disciplined race.
But how do you term discipline?
I term discipline as something there where you do not do things that will hurt others. You do not gain at the expense of others. That is indisciplined behavior. You do not beat up a man to take his land or any other way. So, discipline means you do what you have to do and let the other do what he has to do. And learn to work together. Let him do his task, we will do our task. But we find, sometimes in India, Indians find fault with others all the time. We also find fault with the government for what we fail to achieve. You always get the government you deserve.
Don't you think that it's the people who are responsible after electing the government that I think they are more responsible choosing the government, putting them in power?
Unfortunately, so far.
And not getting or...
Yeah, we don't elect people on the basis of merit, on the basis of their integrity. We very often elect because somebody gives us money to give him his vote, somebody gives us liquor to give him his vote, somebody appeals to us on the basis of caste, creed, that he is a Patel, you are a Patel, vote. So, unfortunately, we learn all these habits, which is bad. But in a cooperative, I find at a village level, we are able to educate them to cast their vote for the best man. That will do the best good for the milk co-op. That will give him the best price. So that way, gradually, you are educating our masses to appreciate the importance of democratic structures.
Dr. Kurien, we have been slaves for so many years in the past. Since we are talking about Indian mentality, Indian behavior, Indian political sphere? What is it that has kept us in this space for
I think
such a long time?
after 50 years of independence, it would not be right to continue to blame the British for all our ills.
True.
You could have done it for the first 10 years, maybe 20 years, but you can't keep doing it after 50 years. They left 50 years ago. Now we are responsible for the situation in which India finds itself. No use blaming others. But it is also true that others cannot afford to let India emerge as a very powerful nation. So they will do whatever is possible to play one nation against the other, to chadaw Pakistan against India or Sri Lanka against India, and so on. But we as Asians, as people inhabiting the southern world, we must learn to talk to each other, to support each other, and to learn to help each other out. And we must be prepared to have advanced countries to use us, to divide us, further divide us. Now, one of the things I hope we will learn is having divided India on the basis of religion into Pakistan and India. Now what has happened? Now Pakistan is finding they want to be divided on the basis of Shias and Sunnis. And the northwestern frontier people are saying we are Pathans, we want Pathan state. So once you initiate divisions, it never ends. When India was one country with Pakistan, then there was no problem between Shias and Sunnis. That happens when you give the Muslims a separate state called Pakistan. So the division is a very, very wrong thing. And I hope sooner or later we will learn that we must confederate into one nation back again. And just as Europe has become one nation again, and they are even talking about one currency, they are talking about one parliament, European Parliament. Now we must learn something from these examples and consider whether or not we should not federate with Pakistan, with Sri Lanka, with Burma, with Nepal. Whether we should not develop policies that will make us friends of China. And you see, and whether we cannot form our own bloc of developing countries to offset the blocs they are forming of advanced countries. Whether we should not help in trade each other. So there are approaches in foreign policy that we should be following to strengthen developing countries and to resist other countries from dividing us and making us fight.
Dr. Kurien, by whom you have been most inspired during your childhood?
After I came to Ananda, I can say it was Tribhuvandas Patel. But before that, I don't think so, anyone.
How were you inspired by Tribhuvandas Patel?
You have seen what he has done. He has picked a fellow from Kerala who is a Christian, made him the chief executive of his cooperative, protected him till he gained command, allowed him to function without interference, did not allow others to interfere also. And that is how he built this institution. Gave me the freedom to recruit whoever I wanted to build my team. His only job was to see that I performed in a manner that was in the interest of the farmers I was supposed to serve. But I didn't do anything that would harm farmer interests. And he allowed me to learn. And he is a man without caste, creed, community, nothing. And unfortunately, such people are becoming very rare now to find. And that is what is causing me concern for India. We should be, as India progresses, produce more Tribhuvandases. We seem to be producing less.
Could you say something more about his personality, the kind of man he was?
Well, he was, of course, a very honest man. As I told you, without any of these narrow prejudices, a man of high integrity. For example, he always saw to it there was a woman on the board of Kaira Co-op. He always saw to it there was a Muslim on the board. Because those days whatever he said was done. So he was sensitive to all these issues. And if anybody were to talk to me, he'll say, oh, I have done nothing, Kurien has done it all. You know, there was another man called Vaikuntlal Mehta. Another very great man. He comes from a very rich family. He was in fact the finance minister of Bombay State. But a very simple man, Nobody will think he is a finance minister. Very modest man, man of high integrity, great believer in cooperatives. So you see, these are the great men of Gujarat. How these people got built and created and how we are failing to do this is another matter. But if Gujarat has any wisdom, they will try to create these people. And politicians have now become bad word because politics has become dirty. So the question does arise whether the democratic form of government will produce good people or whether there will be further deterioration in standards.
Do you see any hope in the cooperative leaders taking this stead?
Yes, a cooperative is nothing but a school. A village co-op is nothing but a school where our leaders are trained. A union is nothing but a college where they are given further education. A state federation is still a higher level of training. So out of these will emerge many leaders who learn how to handle men, materials, money with dignity, decorum and decency. That is the purpose. These are all the schools and colleges to develop this type of people. And I hope it will get developed.
So, in your opinion, how is corruption can be checked?
Of course, each one of us can do something to check corruption because by not being corrupt ourselves, by not tolerating corruption those below us, by not getting anything out of our masters by giving them money or by being corrupt or doing the job bidding even if it is wrong. So each of us have a role to play. Corruption is something that should be put right by the people. It cannot be done by laws. There are enough laws in India. In fact, there are too many laws in India. What we need is enforcement of the law. In fact, I should appoint a committee to look at all our laws and abolish all the laws that are unnecessary. There are far too many laws. And when you have laws which are not enforced, you are breeding disrespect for law. So it's about time the committee of parliament is appointed to look at all the laws they have passed and reduce it by 3/4. Have only very few laws. But see to it, whatever laws you have passed and retained are enforced. Today in groundnut oil, we are in the oil business. There is no groundnut oil available in Gujarat without adulteration. With that too with castor oil, which is a non-edible oil. And there are food inspectors. There is a health department. There is a civil supplies department. What are they doing? The laws are there. By giving a monopoly of testing this oil to the health department and the municipal health officers, you have created a set of people who live on corruption. But if you have another agency also which can enforce the law, for example, I have suggested NDDB will also enforce the law. It's a government institution. And their monopoly of enforcing the law is removed. Then you see what happens. Why should oil be tested only in a government laboratory which have no equipment? Why can't it be tested in the laboratory of the dairy board, where we have gas chromatographs, which are an expensive piece of equipment? So you should be able to mobilize a large number of laboratories, large number of institutions to check on the evil things like adulteration.
What is your opinion about consumer protection in this regard?
That is another fad. Consumer protection, who is protecting the consumer? Against what? Against overcharging, against quality and so on. All the laws are there, but they are not for the consumer. Not any more laws.
Dr. Kurien, which is the leader of the world or our nation who is, whom you look upon as a high person?
I think that man, in my judgment, was Shastri, Lal Bahadur Shastri.
Mm-hmm.
He was a leader who was of very outstanding quality, integrity, capacity. Of course, there was Sardar Patel. So those two would be the political leaders of the highest quality India has produced.
Which are the other people you have met who have contributed most to their own fields?
Oh, I have met Norman Borlaug, who, as you know, is a Nobel laureate. He's been here, very fine man. Here was another fellow who is a great lover of India, incidentally, because his Nobel laureateship he got because India accepted his seeds. His own country did not.
Mm-hmm.
You see, we were living from ship to mouth those days. Subramaniam was the minister. He had a very able secretary called Sivaraman. So Sivaraman told Subramaniam, "Sir, this is not good for India, living like this, as beggars. We must become self-sufficient. And sir, I have heard of this Mexican wheat, which a man called Borlaug has evolved. We should get the seeds here." So Subramaniam said, "All right, set up a meeting, we'll discuss it. Call the director, IARI, ICAR and so on, Seed Corporation." Everybody opposed this idea of bringing seeds. IARI, whose director's name was M.S. Swaminathan, opposed it tooth and nail. He said, "We are on the verge of involving good seeds. Don't bring these foreign seeds. They will bring in diseases. So give us a little more time. I am now on IR5. I very soon will come out with IR6, then IR7, and by the time we come up with IR8, it would be a perfect seed," and so on. So Sivaraman told Subramaniam, "If you wait for these fellows to produce anything, you will wait till the cows come home. Nothing is going to happen. I advise you, get that seed." Swaminathan's violent protests were overruled, and 4 plane loads of seed was ordered from Mexico. That was the Green Revolution. The fellow who opposed it, M.S. Swaminathan, who is now considered the father of the Green Revolution.
Green Revolution.
This is because Sivaraman then told Subramaniam, "Sir, but we should not humiliate our scientists. So let us give the credit to Swaminathan." So I once in a meeting asked Swaminathan, "Is this true, Swaminathan?" He said, "Who told you?" I said, "Boro." So he said, "I plead guilty." So you see the greatness of that man Sivaraman. So these are some of the people and incidents that are not ordinary.
What has been your most memorable experience when you have got the response of people, the love of people? Any moment that you recall?
No, it happens all the time here. I can go to any district and have a meeting of farmers, and I'm quite sure that some 40,000-50,000 of them will gather. Though I'm not a Gujarati, I know I can depend on their support for anything I want to achieve or do, which needs their support, they will give it to me. So these are good things. Now it's not only here. The other day I was in Patna, and there was a meeting of 50,000-60,000 people just to see me. I was in a place called Bangalore and Hassan. There were 70,000 farmers there. So these things happen. So I took Sonia Gandhi to Amethi. There were 100,000 farmers there. Yes.
Don't you think if you had gone in the political field, you could have brought in many more reforms, many more changes?
I am not so sure, because one politician, I don't think, particularly when he has no party. And also I don't know whether it would not have had a negative effect on me, my being a politician. I don't think. I'm happy as I am. The suggestion has of course been made.
True.
In fact, it's even been suggested that I become a minister. But in my wisdom, I thought it's not good.
Not to be one.
Not good. It's not suitable for me.
But I would say that Dr. Kurien, not being a politician and yet playing a big role to bring in reforms, isn't that possible for you even now?
What sort of reforms?
Things that the country requires most. You have a vision, you have brought in, you have proved that.
Well, all that one can do is to create institutions like the Dairy Development Board, like Amul Dairy, like the number of Amul dairies. These are all institutions of social and economic change. And when you build these institutions, you are in fact helping these changes to take place. So that is the approach I have had. Let the institutions be built and changes will come. You see, Dairy Board is a very, very well-known institution in the country and even outside.
Yes.
That's because of the quality of the people that work in it, and its performance and its integrity and so on. It will continue. So if one man tries to say that he has done this, he has done that, then it's very small that he can achieve, not very important.
It is a joint of effort.
It has to be by creation of institutions which will perpetuate the mission. Then it lasts for a longer time.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.